Welcome to the Sage Advice series presented by Crum Consulting. I'm Maria Johnson, Junior Consultant in Marketing, and I'm thrilled to introduce our very first guest, Cathy Wodarski of Wodarski Consulting. Cathy, it's a pleasure to have you as our first guest here today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm
Yeah,
excited about this. It's definitely something that I feel comfortable talking about since I've been in this position for many, many years.
perfect. That's exactly what I was hoping for.
Good.
Great. We'll jump right in. From my research, saw that you worked under some other businesses in like recruiting, sales, budgeting, management. I even saw that you were president at Austin Human Resources Management Association, which
Exactly. That
super
was
cool.
that was very cool. Very cool. I highly, highly, highly recommend consultants that are getting into the field to find their local human resource chapter because ultimately in business consulting, your end user or the person that says yay or nay is in
Hmm.
resources. I would say
Yep.
at least 75% of the time. They're the ones to also give you leads within their company. As an example, if someone needs coaching on leadership,
Hmm.
in my case, they'll call me from human resources and say, Cathy, we have so and so, and this is where they're having trouble. Um, can you start them on a coaching series of leadership, or can you start them on a coaching series of conflict resolution, whatever the case might be? But it comes from human resources. It's not an overnight thing. I
Hmm.
jumped into ARMA, Austin Human Resource Managers Association, when I first came to Austin. That was 1995. At that point,
Oh.
I was working for a staffing company. And again, my end user, the person that calls for staff, is in human
Hmm.
resources. So I said, well, I just need to become a known there because there's a lot of staffing companies. We had over 400 staffing companies competing for the same business that I wanted
Wow.
right here in Austin, Texas.
Wow.
So I had to go in there and prove to them why they wanted to do business with me. And we we buy from people we number one like and
Hmm.
trust. It's a
Hmm.
two-pronged series. If they don't like you, no matter how good you are, probably not going to get the upper hand.
Yeah.
They don't trust you, even though they like you, but they don't really trust you. Again, it's going to kick you out of there. So
Hmm.
I went in there with my eyes wide open, my sleeves rolled up, and I said, all right, what can I do to assist you in human resource management? And it was everything from grunt work of belonging to some of the presentations and helping them at their annual conference. I paid my dues for about, well, I'm going to say a good 3 to 5 years. And you pick out parts of human resources that you go, okay, recruiting. I like to recruit. So I actually got in with that group and helped them. And then when they think of a need and they know you and like you and trust you, they pick up the phone and call you. So I was with that staffing company for a total of, I think it's 20, I'm going to say 25 years. Uh,
Wow.
yeah, a long time in
Yeah.
Houston, part of the time, but Austin most of the time. And it was great because I had a knowledge base and a contact base with people that knew me and trusted me. So when I started knocking on their door, it's like, okay, all right. Then in 2006, after working for that staffing company for all those years, they sold out. I did not like the new management at all. We just did not get along. We didn't see eye to eye. Prior to them buying us out, we were what we call high end administrative and placements. They were blue collar, totally different mindset.
I
They
see.
would go in and just recruit anybody that was breathing. We were selective, and that's how we did our business. So, but long story short, I said, no, this is it. I'm going to retire. I'm old enough to retire. I need to work anymore.
Hmm.
Lasted for all of 2 weeks. In in that 2 weeks, I had a couple phone calls from my competitors because they knew who I
Oh,
was.
wow.
They knew how good I was and that I was the one who stole business from them. So
Oh,
they
wow.
told me and said, come work for us, come work for us. And I said, oh, no, I don't think I want to go to work for anybody anymore. But I will train your people for you.
Mm.
Little did
Mm,
I realize that that was going to be the birth of my company.
that's
'Cause
awesome.
I loved it. I have all this knowledge at that point. Oh gosh, I hate to tell you how old I was, but consider it, I was older. I was older. I have at least 40 years in sales. I have at least 40 years in recruiting people. So I did that for a couple weeks and I told my husband, I said, I really like this. I think I'm going to start a business. And he says, go for it. So then it
Oh.
was a matter of finding a logo that I liked, getting my tagline, putting website together, all those things I had never, ever done in my life. This is not mine, but there's people out there that do anything you need them to do. You just need to research and find the person who does it well
Mm,
enough for you. And so I hired the people to help me with my logo, et cetera, et cetera. And my
mhm.
business was launched. I wish I could say it went off like a rocket. It did not. It did not. However, I was getting enough business where I felt like this is good. Plus, I was new and green to the training world. I had never formally trained in front of people before. It was more or less one-on-one training. And I said, I can do that 7 days a week,
Mhm.
24 hours a day, no problem.
Yeah.
But to get up in front of a group of 30, 40 people and command their attention and then pass on my knowledge and walk away feeling that went well, it takes a little bit of time, not just little practice. It was quite a bit of practice. So when I reflected back after a few years, I thought, wow, I was really green. They really must have loved me to have me back. But enough was said that they found the value in it. And my earlier companies, I gained a lot of knowledge as a regional manager, as a group manager, outside
Mm,
sales. So all that, how can you say, experience, life experience,
mhm.
plus my age entered into that as well. People began to see the value that I brought to the team. And then the rest is history. It just grew and grew and grew and grew. I ended up about, I'm going to say about 8 years ago, having one primary huge client.
Ooh.
For whatever reason, they did not want to hire a trainer
Mhm.
in-house, but they found me very lucrative in hiring me whenever they needed something to be done, whether it be a one-on-one training or group training, traveling to the Valley to put on presentations, whatever. So they would not have to pull from their HR staff. They would
Mm.
just call me. So I was a little bit like a household word after a while. It's like, oh, call Cathy, or oh, Cathy, they need to talk to her, or when can you see this one? And so it just grew and grew over the last several years to, it was more than full time over the last couple of years. Um, the truth be known,
Wow.
being in sales, you know you should never have a lot of your business in one
Mhm.
pipeline. Because if
Mhm.
the pipeline goes away, it, your business is definitely gone. Even knowing that though, I said, I'm really at an age where it's okay. I love my one client. I know my one client. I'm comfortable with this individual. I would
Mhm.
be fine to say, no, I can't do that today. Um, can I do it tomorrow, etc. So
Mhm.
uh, I wasn't worried ever that it was all going to go away. Well, it happened about 2 months ago. Uh, their parent company, which is in Australia, called me. No, not the parent called me. Parent called them and said no outside trainers whatsoever.
Oh,
So my client, she just, I can't believe I'm making this call, Cathy, but they've told us no more outside trainers. And
no.
well, it's been a wonderful ride. It's
Mhm.
just been wonderful and it's met my needs. And maybe it's time that I retire this time.
It's a
So
good way to look at
yeah,
it.
maybe it's time. Who knows what. And I did not want to
Yeah.
go and pursue new business, which I could have done. I could have gone back to ARMA. I could have gone back to the monthly meetings. I could have called a lot of the people that I know through the years.
Mhm.
Hey, I'm available. Do you have anything? This is what I do. My skills are still very good, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I thought
Mhm.
it's just time. I do a lot of volunteer work. It's maybe if I focus more on my volunteer work, and that gives me a lot of freedom to do whatever else I need.
Mhm.
So the bottom line, I did that until last week. And last week I got a call from that client and they want me to do 2 classes in January. So
That's awesome.
I'm not totally out of business. I'm not totally retired. My family just, they shake their head and they go, Cathy, I said, I know, but they really need me and they love what they
Yeah.
wrote me such a beautiful email. You wouldn't believe, Maria. It was just,
Oh,
it broke my heart. I'm like, oh my gosh, they really
oh,
value me as a consultant and a trainer.
yeah.
I called her. I said, of course, I'd be happy to do that. And then I was able to walk her through her thoughts and giving her pointers of what might work best for her group. And now I've got a huge class, two classes actually back to back of uh, 20 people and 20 people. I like to keep it on the smaller side. I think the message is heard better. The interaction of the team is much better. Too large, you tend to get clicks in different parts of the room that you lose control. Then it becomes everybody's talking and nobody's really getting it. Again, I'll voice it because it's my age, but I have no problem saying, and I'm quoting myself, we have one person talking at a time. If you would like to talk, please let me know and I'll be quiet. Pretty
I
strong,
love it.
pretty
Yes.
strong. But you have to maintain that control. Otherwise,
Yeah.
it becomes a free for all. And it's not what they have to say is invaluable. It
Yeah.
might be, but that's why I need you to raise your hand so that you can share it with the group. Otherwise, it's distracting to the other people in the room. So that's one of those little things that I do that I know really works. Takes a little bit of courage to say that to a group of people. If
Yes.
you don't know them at that point, it's like, ladies and gentlemen, I've got a comment here, and just make my comment. And it gets very quiet, and the rest of the class exceedingly well. I'm just,
Yeah.
I'm kind of babbling on, Maria. I don't know if
I'm
there's,
totally okay with that. The question was going to be about your journey anyway, and I feel like you've taken me through it. And I
well,
love that.
well, let me begin at the beginning then, just briefly. And
Sure.
I was a young bride and I had just lost 60 pounds, 60 pounds. So I saw this ad in the paper and it said clothing consultants wanted. I'm like,
Oh,
I free wardrobe. Oh my gosh, this is wonderful. So I started my business with Beeline Fashions and it was in-home party plan sales, like Tupperware lady. Put
wow.
I did it for 22 years.
That's
And
cool.
out of over 20,000 individuals, I was in the top 10 for over 10 years. I was the number one salesperson for 3 or 4 years out of over 20,000. So to say I was
Wow.
good, I was very good, but it really
That's
gave
awesome.
a lot of, what's the word I want? Uh, Confidence to stand
Hmm.
in front of people, no matter who they are. And, it's making commentary, working on
Yes.
the cuff, so to speak, because I knew the clothing, I knew the background, and my best interest was to have them looking good in what they bought. Because if they
Yes.
did, they're more inclined to have a show from themselves or come back and buy some more. So, and I think the same thing's true with all consulting. You want to score a win with them. Otherwise,
Hmm.
why come to me? Why pay me the big bucks? They don't have to. So uh, that confidence comes through too. The more you do it, the easier it gets. You know, that old saying,
Yeah.
confidence breeds success and success breeds confidence. And where do you get on that train?
All
So
very true.
you just have to do it long enough. And then because
If
I
you
was,
love it, it
yeah,
works.
yes, but something else along those lines too. And I think being a solo player, early on, not having a manager, I was self-employed. So I told myself after I had a showing, it's like, okay, what made this showing good? Why was it a disaster today? What didn't I do right? And I employ that and I try to train managers on that too, to sit back
Hmm.
today and kind of reflect for a few minutes. Because what it will do is help you in the future to go, oh, well, if I don't do good hostess coaching, I may not have a good showing. That falls on my shoulders. So, as a manager, if you don't do any planning, how can you expect a good day?
Yeah.
You just walk in the door and that's it. That's what's going to happen.
So
You know,
would you say that you were almost like your own first consulting client with how you kind of refined your techniques in every career that you've had?
True. Very true. Very true. So as I started that, then I thought, well, I can do this and I can recruit other people because when you recruited other people, you got a residual on their sales. So I thought, well, this is cool. I'll do that. And that was in Cleveland, Ohio. Then we moved to Houston and I took the company with me because I'm self-employed there. And there were only 3 consultants there, and there were over 1,200 in Cleveland, Ohio,
Oh,
doing
wow.
the same thing. So I opened up the region. I recruited over 100 women to do what I did and train them on how to be their best in presentations. And it was a wonderful job. Wonderful, wonderful. We traveled, we won gifts, I had a car, I had 2 wardrobes a year. Oh my gosh, it was great. So
That's amazing.
I love it for myself, but all good things come to an end. And that company went out of business. It was a line I
Mm,
Chicago. So I was faced with, what do I do with the rest of my life? I'm 40 years of age. So, gosh, I don't know. Then I had a girlfriend that went into staffing and she said, you'd be a natural, Cathy. Try staffing. So I did. And had to start at the very lowest end after making really good money. I mean, back in
mm,
the 60s, when you made $100,000, you,
yeah.
you were rich.
Yeah.
It was great. But now I'm starting a brand new career and I'm working for someone else for the first time. And the salary they offered me was 18,000 a year.
Oh, wow.
Oh my God.
Oh, wow.
Oh my God. And I'm 40 years of age and I've paid my dues. This is what I told myself. I've paid my dues already. So I told her when she offered me that, I said, I will take it because I will prove to you that I'm worth so much more.
I
And
like it.
within 6 months, I told her again, she's a great manager. I said, Pam, I want to manage this branch. I know how to manage people. This is what I want. So it's amazing, Maria, when we tell people what we want, it's saying out loud what's in our head,
Hmm.
what's in our dream. And then you find ways to make it happen. So on that particular day, she said, I said, I want to manage this branch. And she said, well, Kathy,
Hmm.
that's my job and I'm not going anywhere. And I said, not today, but the company's growing. You already have 4 branches. Manage a branch. And she kind of chuckled and she said, so noted. So here's some sage advice, if you will.
I
After that
like
one-on-one with her, I went back to my desk and I opened my day timer. And this is back when it was a day timer. You opened it up and it was a whole week at a glance. And 7 o'clock, 7:15, 7:30, you would write things down. Where are you going from 7 to 8? I'm going to be here. This is what I'm doing. Opened my calendar and I looked at everything that I had on my agenda. And I said to myself, this will not get me to where I want to be. Scratch. This will not get me to where I want to be. Scratch. In other words, focus on the A priorities to get you to your dreams.
it.
So I did that. And then I wrote across the top of the page, not only that day, for years to come, I will be the very best branch manager at the Temporary Connection. Wrote it all out every morning, looked at what I had to do, cross, cross, focus. Sage advice.
Affirmations work.
They do, they do, they do. I not only became that branch manager, I became their troubleshooter. First, they put me at the worst branch possible. It was
Mhm.
people hadn't had a manager in 6 months or more. And anyway, long story short, I went from that branch to the next branch to the next branch.
Mhm.
A total of 7 years had passed through all of that. And I was meeting with the 4 owners, and I said, I really want to move to Austin, Texas, and open a branch there. They looked at one another. Cathy, we're Houston based. We're not going to Austin. I said, I would like to open a branch there. Are you leaving us? Not today, but now that I've said this out loud, I said, my daughter is there, my granddaughter's there, my husband's parents are there. I want to be there. So it was dead silent. I mean, nobody said anything, and the meeting was over abruptly. And it took them a couple weeks, but then they came back and said, were you serious? And I said, I didn't realize how serious I was until I said it out loud. And they said, well, would you go do a market survey in Austin, see if there's enough business for us? Never did a market survey before, but I said, of course I can. So I came to Austin, stayed with my mother-in-law and father-in-law, and went to many businesses and did some reconnaissance. And my biggest quote was, we should have been there 5 years ago already. There's business. So long story short, they promoted me to a regional manager. I came to Austin, opened a branch for them, recruited everybody, trained everybody. So I was recruiting, sales, and branch manager all at the same time.
Wow.
That was opened. It was profitable within 6 months, which was huge,
Mhm.
huge. And then from there, I also opened up San Antonio. So
Oh, wow.
yeah,
Two
it
for one.
2 for 1, 2 for 1. It was great. It was great. It's doing all the things I love. And
Speaking your mind really goes a long way, huh?
I think you have to be honest. And when you say it out loud, it's like you're committing almost to it. It's like, I'll find a
Yeah.
way to make this work. I'll find a way. I do want this. Yes. And knowing that
Amazing.
nothing comes easy. There's pitfalls and heartaches and all, but they become very minute to the joy that you have in doing things that turn out right. And to
That's,
find the good in everything you do and learn from the things that you don't do well.
I like that. I think that's great advice for a lot of younger people in the job market right now, trying to figure out what they want to do. Because even myself,
Mhm.
I'm like, it's just a big question mark. But then I hear other people's journeys and it's truly a journey. And I'm like, I am just in a little small section of this. As long as I make my commitments, it'll go somewhere.
It will go somewhere. And how did I ever get into sales? I don't know. I grew up in a grocery store environment with my dad owning the store. So I was around people all the time. So I saw business and I saw a lot of people. So easy to talk to. And sales was kind of natural. And then just the leader management and so forth, because so many people don't get it. I thought, I can show you what to do. And I'm laughing because I thought this last week I volunteer a lot too. I was at my volunteer gig, which is the Austin Assistance League, and this
Hmm.
lady had on her apron and it was like falling off of her, and she had her cell phone in the pocket, so I drug it down the other side.
Oh.
So I walked up to her. I says, "Linda, you look like a little ragamuffin today. Do you mind if I straighten you out?" And I think it's because my intentions are good. It's not to make her feel bad.
Yeah,
I love doing that. And so it's the approach I take with everything in life. Can I tell you, how about this? Have you thought about that? Uh, I don't have all the answers, but I can talk through any problem. I can
I love that.
talk through it and we can come up to something that's going to feel good.
Yeah.
And I guess the biggest part of my success, I must give this credit, is that I am a DISC behavioral analyst.
Okay.
DISC is, people say, oh, Myers-Briggs. I said, no, Myers-Briggs is a personality assessment.
Hmm.
And it's you are an oak tree, you're forever an oak tree. That's who you are.
Hmm.
DISC is a behavioral tool that helps us understand other people and understand ourselves. So,
Interesting.
yeah, my staffing company, they used a similar tool. And I said, I just loved it because it really helped me take the head off, look down in, and say, okay, this is what you need from me. You need a smile. You need this. You need me to be straightforward. You need me to be stern. You need me to give you a lot of are all different. But if I give
Yes.
a high eye a lot of details, are like too much information. And the C is saying, oh no, I want more information. But how do we know that? By looking at a person. We
Hmm.
manage all the same. We consult all the same. A problem. So if they want to get into any type of long-term one-on-one coaching, the DISC is a wonderful, wonderful tool. It
Mm.
generates a workbook, uh, and it's not inexpensive, I must admit, but you recoup all of that. Like this 55 people ultimately that I just send out DISC reports for, I will make a profit on those before I even meet with them. And yet that'll also give me a lot of information to pass on to that manager where she will start seeing even more value in working with me because she said, Cathy, we have so-and-so, I'm a DI and I think she's an S. So how do we coach them? What do we do? It generates a workbook. So I'm easy. I could just open it up and say, all right, this is what we need to do. Take a look at page so-and-so. We're going to pretend, now we're going to role play, et cetera, et cetera. And I have 100% confidence in what I'm suggesting to them because it's like it is who they are.
Interesting. So would you say, I mean, communication is a huge role in consulting and like learning how to communicate with people different ways.
Absolutely.
Um, how do you feel that those communication skills have like guided you through your consulting experience?
Immensely. It tells me when to shut up. If if I'm dealing with a high D individual, they're abrupt. They want you to get to the point quickly. And so I
Hmm.
ratcheted up. I said, all right, we're going to talk in bullet points today because I know that's what you want to hear. You don't want to hear the long of it. And they go,
Hmm.
thank God, yes, just get to the point. A high I, and you have probably a lot of I in you. I haven't done your disc, but I can kind of feel that you're high I. So you're engaging, you're smiling, you're, what's the word I want? And energetic. It's an I or IS combination. So it's helped me over and over. So I've used the DISC tool, first of all, with my staffing company, which was back in 1980, 85 when I joined them. So I've used it since 1985. So what is that? 40 years? 40 years of using assessments.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
I'd
huge.
say it's tried and true.
It's huge. It's huge. They can go online if they ever want to look it up. It's a disc, and there are a lot of discs, but this particular one has lowercase I. So it's
Okay.
capital D, lowercase I, SC. And I chose that particular disc is the validation process is outstanding. I can say with confidence that yes, if you answer the questions correctly, this is who you are. This is so most of the time I get, oh, my mother, how do you know this about me? I said, just by the questions you answered. So it gets summary pages and so forth. Again, it's a fabulous, fabulous tool.
Beneficial outside of business as well.
Absolutely. I do. Sometimes I've had families come in and it's almost like therapy. I call it therapy hour. It's like, this person's not getting this from you, and this person's not getting this from you. We respond to the needs of others if we understand the needs of others. And you said communication is key. It is absolutely. Maxwell has a wonderful quote that I actually started teaching a whole class around. It's like, we all communicate, but do we connect?
Mm,
All communicate, but do we connect? And what is connection? How do we connect? How do we know we are connected? How does the process start? So again, I train a whole class on that alone as a short class,
wow.
hour class for like a lunch and learn. So longer you're in the business, of course, the more you see the needs. And at first I was like concerned because I am a little bit older when I started my coaching. And I said, how are they going to really listen to what I have to say and not see me for age, but just see me for experience?
Yeah.
And it was never a problem. It was never a problem. If they
Amazing.
if they had a self-judgment to begin with, it went away right away.
Oh, wow.
So
So, would you say, in terms of communication, or it could be outside of communication, has there been like a pivotal moment or a pivotal challenge that you've overcome when you were starting out your consulting that has kind of shaped how you go about consulting now?
I don't see any really major pivotal points other than when I went to the owners in Houston and said I wanted to open the branch. And
Mm,
just deciding, making the decision and not getting disappointed when it doesn't go exactly like you had hoped. Because we are human, be forgiving of yourself. Be forgiving of yourself. Look to what did you do good? And what you didn't do so well, think, all right, I need to practice that, or I need to find more to read on that. I'm a very avid reader on management consulting books. I read 2 blogs every single week. I think you always have to sharpen your saw, so to speak, to see what's
hmm.
out there so that you can draw. And sometimes it's just a sentence I read and say, "Ah, that's profound. I love that." So I
Yes.
take it and write it down, and it's like it becomes a huge piece of what I put together in my consulting. Um,
Interesting.
it is. It really is. One of the, this is going back many years ago, and it was how do we communicate?
Hmm.
And I'm thinking, well, we talk. No, what the article said was, of course, we communicate in several different ways. Number one way we communicate is our body language. Number one, by far,
Hmm.
it's 55% of all your communication is your body language.
Wow.
It's like, wow,
That's huge.
that's huge. If was sitting here kind of like this when I'm talking,
Yeah.
my body would not be saying, but I choose to sit up straight. Back, let me see. Hold on one second. There. I choose to sit up straight. I do smile a lot. I try not to talk too much with my hands, and that's hard because I'm expressive. And
Mm-hmm.
my hands, it tends to add to the expression. So
Interesting.
that's 55%. But the second way we can communicate is the tone of our voice. So I give them a little story, and the story goes like this. I said, one day, this to prove my point, I work from my home. So I have a recorder when I'm out doing presentations. I came back and my recorder wasn't working well. So I thought, oh, darn, I'm going to have to get a recorder before I go out for my last session today. So I ran out, got a new recorder, put a voice message on it, left and came back, and the light is blinking. I'm like, oh, I got a message. It was my son. And he says, Mom, call me. And I thought, okay, he sounds worried. So I call him, I says, hey, Joey, what's up? He says, Mom, are you okay? And I said, oh yeah, I'm fine, honey. What's the deal? And he says, your voice. You really sounded so upset on the phone.
Aw.
Now, I was upset because I had to run out and get this new recorder. I was in
Mm-hmm.
a hurry, so I didn't think of how I was projecting myself. So my tone, as all people, accounts for 37%.
Wow.
So 56 and 37 are 93%. We have not said
Wow.
anything about your choice of words. Your choice of words is only 7%.
That's crazy.
So I use that at every single training that I give because I want to point out that it makes a difference. So I had a manager, oh, I'll never forget him. He was he was a brute. I'll just leave it like a brute. So I was
Mm.
thinking about that, and he hit his desk really hard and made a loud. I said, I don't believe any of that. It makes no difference. If I want to drive a point home, I just drive a point home. And I'm like, I didn't know what to say at first, Maria.
Mm.
I looked at him and he had his 11 executive managers around him.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to myself, Cathy, you're going out on a limb here and the limb might crack and you may not ever be asked to this company again, but I have to say what's true. So
Mm-hmm.
I said to the group, I said, all right, guys, do you listen more and pay attention more when Bobby hits the desk or slams a door? No one said a word, but they all went.
Mm.
So I called him on his behavior, which was rude and horrible. He never let
Yeah.
me do it. I never went back there to that company. It was okay because what he was doing was managing by intimidation.
Yeah.
So when I get someone else that's like that, I will tell the story. I won't tell them directly. So I had this manager that was managing by intimidation. So what do you think that means? And then we go down. I tell a lot of stories in my coaching, a lot of stories. I weave stories of life, stories that I've seen happen unfold. Um, it's just so easy. So
Yeah.
I'll tell one on Cole. She was probably about 5, I'll say, and just like her grandmother, chatterbox. We're making Christmas cookies. She was on a stool to get her up to the counter size, and I was here and she was here. And she was yakking just like I am. And I'm making this Christmas that had, I think, 9 cups of flour or something. It was huge. And I'm not writing anything down. I'm just kind of counting. And she's like, yes, Nicole. Yes, Cole. Yes, Cole. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. And finally, these 2 little hands come up from next to me. And she does this, Grandma, pay attention to this
Aw.
child. I use that story because how many times as a manager are they, yes, go ahead. Tell me what you, sure. Uh-huh. I got it. I got it. Uh-huh. Sure.
Not truly listening.
Even a child knows when you're not paying attention. Even a child. So how do you think an adult feels? Discounted. Doesn't make a difference. Not really going to give me the best answer. So
Hmm.
what's critically important in communication again? Connect. And here we go back to the connection story. But see, you'll remember that story about coal forever, won't you?
Yes.
Well, you can't.
Absolutely.
So it's the same thing when you tell a good story when you're coaching. People don't always remember what you're trying to quote teach them, but they remember the stories all the time, all the time.
Yeah.
So one more story, and then I'll let you ask me a question. I was out in sales and I was calling on, again, 400 staffing companies here in Austin. I'm calling on one of the biggies. And I finally just said to her, I said, you know, there's a lot of good cars out there. In fact, I drove a Honda for many years. And when it was time to buy a new car, I asked the ladies in my office, and everybody was driving Toyotas. So I thought, I'm going to go try a Honda again, drive it, and then I'm going to test drive a Toyota. So the Honda, if you've ever had a Honda, it always sounds the same. It always, you crank the engine, it sounds the same, it's reliable, it's a good, sturdy car. But then I got in the Toyota and I'm like, more headroom, I'm tall, this is great. Was driving down the Katy Freeway to actually take a test drive. And I was like, oh my gosh, the stereo system in here is wonderful. And it's so quiet, this car. So, does that make the Honda a bad car? No. But sometimes until we make a change, we don't know how good the change can be.
That's some really powerful advice.
So, fast forward, I am now at that client, and she is my client, but I'm bringing a brand new sales rep to meet
Hmm.
her because I like the client to tell the salespeople why they're using our service. I can tell them all the time, but when the client says it. So the first words out of Debbie's mouth was, did you tell her the Toyota story? I said, Deb, it was a couple years ago. She said, Cathy, it was the story that changed my mind. So Maria, do you see?
I do.
It's
I
the
feel like I have become more open to change just within the past 10 seconds.
it's the story. It's the story, and we don't know until we try. So I use that story. In fact, I would buy little Toyota matchbook cars, and I'd leave a note at my prospect with this note: "Are you ready to test drive our service yet?"
Oh, I love that.
Creativity. Anyway, all
Yes,
right. I'll be quiet and let you ask a question or two.
it's all good. So, as you said, you do use stories a lot when you're consulting. Could you walk us through what the average day of consulting looks like for you?
I don't know if there's an average day, quite honestly, just because
Yeah.
you're working for yourself and depending on how busy your consulting business is. It could be a 7-day work week, as an example. And that happens sometimes if you have a lot of big presentations to work on.
Hmm.
I don't even know where to answer that question first. There are things that I enjoy doing, standing up in front of people and talking, making
Hmm.
sales calls, believe it or not. I like that. Sitting in front of the computer and putting together a PowerPoint, I hate it. So an average day for me, if I have a lot of computer work, is I talk to my Apple Watch and I put on a timer for no less than an hour, sometimes 2 hours, and I say, okay, I am going to work until my Apple Watch goes off. And at
Hmm.
that time, I have permission to go out in my yard, go make myself a cup of tea, go for a walk, whatever, because we're self-driven.
Hmm.
There are parts of any business that we like more than others. So we have to learn how to manage the parts that we don't like as much. So think of what you like to do and then reward yourself when you do it. You have to do it. You can't procrastinate but so far because otherwise
Yeah.
when you get in front of the individuals, you're not going to have a good finished product. So you've got to be diligent about getting your work together. So an average day for me is it's so varied. Um, I exercise every morning. I walk 10,000 steps most day, so that has.
Nice.
I love to cook, so I cook most dinners for my husband. Um, and then depending on what I have coming up the next day or the next week, I'm
Hmm.
working in chunks at it. So if it's a very big
Oh,
presentation, I will take a chunk and say, all right, today I want to get through this whole section. It's going to be about an hour of my presentation, of a 4-hour presentation. And I try
yeah.
not to do more than 4 hours at any time. 2 hours is almost too little when you're working with the disc. 3 hours is great. 4 hours is awesome. But after that, they lose interest. They're tired. So I just
Makes
break up my day and take a look at what has to be done. And the
mm,
organization is key. It's just huge. If you're starting out in the business, you've got to set time aside for marketing. You've got to do the marketing piece. Um,
very important.
lucky you if it just comes to your door, but I cases it's not going to come to your door because there are a lot of us out there. And then, you know, how can I say?
You
Um,
know, marketing, I feel like you'd be natural at it with how thorough your communication is.
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I am good at marketing and I'm best face to face. I would much rather be face to face with my prospects. That's why I was never afraid to knock on doors in these big buildings and, try to meet the order placers and
Yeah.
stand out. And I find it's all with people. When I was first in the staffing business, you have to go through the gatekeeper, and that's the person at the front desk. And I thought to myself, well, if I make her a friend, she's going to have good stuff to say about me to the order placer. And even though they might be using XYZ service, I'll probably stand out. Then how else will I stand out? Instead of just leaving a business card, leave a personal note.
Oh,
By way of introduction, my name is Cathy Wodarski and I'm with the Temporary Connection. I know you're very busy, so I would like to call you back to set up a time that would be convenient for you. I will call you tomorrow between the hours of 10 and 12. I hope you take my call. Most sincerely, Cathy Wodarski, and my business card. I still know that today. I must
oh,
have said that 1,000 times.
that's
But again,
amazing.
you're looking, how do you stand out in a world of consultants?
Yeah. So, now I just feel like a lot of businesses are starting to steer away from that personal touch too, especially with AI coming forward. A lot of people are turning to that to be their communication instead. I feel like from what you're saying, I think a lot of people could rediscover the value in a personal touch. And like you said, connection is just as important as communicating because they have to be together to truly make that impact.
Absolutely. How much are we going to trust AI down the road?
Yeah.
As soon as a blip on the radar happens, and we're going to look like, oh my God, I put faith, trust, and now what I said to that, this person is using, and this person is using. And
Mm-hmm.
I, I'm sorry, call me old if you will, call me mature if you will, but nothing's going to take the place of human.
I agree. I
The
totally agree.
human touch, the human understanding, uh, it's not just cookie cutter. AI will be more or less cookie cutter. It's
Yeah.
what people have put into that data bank for it to come out. Please
Yeah.
be real with me, be honest.
So, specifically for people looking to become a consultant or even people looking to or thinking about hiring a business consultant, do you have any advice for them?
I think as far as the consultant, and it's more or less after the fact, once you have that client, make sure that you're asking that person that you're working with to allow enough time at the end, like 10 minutes, to do what I call a wrap up. So if I were sitting with you and you were my client today, and you and I was taught training on business development. I would say, this is the last 10 minutes, Maria. Now we're going to do a wrap up of the day. So, first of all, tell me 3 ideas that you're taking away for today. And I'd like you to write them down.
I like that.
So, Maria thinks, well, I like the way you said that. And I really see a lot of value in that. And that was good. I said, great. That's good. When are you going to put those to work? When are you going to start doing this? And I challenge you to do it all within the next week to start working on parts of that. So that's part of that in 10 minutes. And then the next thing I usually ask them, I say, all right, here comes the big HR manager down the hallway. They know you and I have met. They ask you, what did you learn that was most valuable from Cathy? Because then it lets me understand, are they learning? Also, when they're being tested by those that are paying the bill, they know it's like, well, they learned this, they learned that, they learned time mastery, they learned about recruiting, whatever the case may be. So it's that to me is something we don't do enough of. When I'm doing a classroom training, I
Mhm.
ask 15 minutes for a wrap up and we go round robin. Tell me one thing that you're taking away. Tell me one thing that you're taking away. Now write it down and I want you to turn that into your manager because I want
Hmm.
them to hold you accountable. It also then lets the manager see because I usually have 4 questions. You know, how would you rate this? What did you most enjoy? If you could have anything else being trained on, what would it be? And I'm trying to remember the last question, but there's another question on there. So they fill that out. That all goes back to the manager. So the manager sees firsthand. And I'll brag on myself. On a scale of 1 to 5, I generally get 95% all fives.
Wow.
People love my classes.
I love it.
It's relaxed, it's friendly, it's um, knowledgeable.
I feel like a key to I, that sort of success is you don't tell people what to do. You genuinely just guide them to the place that they need to be. They
That,
get there themselves, but you're just there to help them on the journey.
yes, just to remind them because we all, we go to these classes all the time. We hear good advice. We read a book, and oh, that was good, that was good.
Yeah.
And some of it sticks. I'm not going to say nothing sticks. Some of it sticks. But until we write it down and put it into a plan of action, we're not going to change.
Hmm.
Do the same thing that we've always done. So you've got to be willing to say, all right, I'm not really great at closing the sale, as an example. So you talked about closing the sale, and it's like, oh my gosh, I learned so much from that. Good. What did you learn? What are you going to do differently when you go on your next call? How are you going to close the sale? It's kind of like, maybe I'll end with this story. You'll really laugh. So after
Okay.
40 years of being, 40 years of age, and it was the clothing business, blah, blah, blah. And now I'm going to work at the staffing company. And so I'm working for somebody, a company. And I'm interviewing for the first time. I've never interviewed for a job, and I'm 40. Again, I'll point that out. And the manager is like, it's an hour and a half interview. And I'm thinking, dear God, I didn't even have a resume. That's how green I was with that whole
Oh,
aspect.
wow.
Her last question was, Cathy, what will you do if you don't get this job? I didn't even blink. I said, I will go to your competition and you will be forever sorry that you did not hire me because I'm really good. She laughed and I kind of chuckled and I thought, we're so ballsy. But it's how I felt. It's okay to say it like you feel. And need I say of course they hired me. But there's there's so many times I look back and I think, oh my gosh, I really can't speak my mind.
Yeah.
Believe in yourself, believe that you have something to offer, but then also really want to help somebody else. It's not just, quote, a gig, it's not just a coaching, it's not just a paycheck. It's never been that.
The passion and the confidence.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
like Well, I think I could speak for the audience and most certainly myself when I say I've learned a lot from you just in this past
Oh, thank you.
50 minutes. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to write some of this down after I finish up.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So you give me one thing that you are taking away. What was,
One,
yeah, one or two things that are,
the biggest thing is speaking my mind when I have an idea and just throwing it out there
yeah,
because it kind of speaks it into existence. I feel like I hold a lot in my head. And it just like when you do that, or at least when I do that, I get caught up trying to make a plan and then it kind of all gets muddled together. And I think it takes a lot longer than it would have if I had just started going for it.
you have nothing to lose.
Yes.
If you say it with all heart and sincerity and belief, you have nothing to lose. If you're wrong, it's like, I should have looked at it from that point. Thank you for saying that. I've learned something from that, and I still learn every day.
Well, what is the biggest takeaway that you would like our audience, whoever's going to be watching this, to take away?
Hmm. Gosh, I guess going into all consulting with really trying to make a difference in that person to help
Yeah.
them be the best that they can be. Because if that's the root that you are, that's what comes from you, that will definitely come out in truth. You won't be afraid to say things that might be a little offensive to somebody
Yeah.
or that, they may not like to hear. But if the truth of the matter is I want you to be successful. It's kind of like
Mhm.
Mom said, like many, this is going to hurt me more than it hurts you kind of syndrome when they holler, maybe spank you. It's, sometimes it's more difficult for the consultant to say something than it is for the person to receive it. And if you give it, watch your tone, don't be condescending, just listen to yourself. And if you're not sure about your tone, listen to a recording that you made, listen to your voicemail, ask somebody else to judge. How do I sound
Yeah.
to you? Do I sound like I'm condescending? Do I sound inquisitive? Do I sound like someone you would like to listen to? When you think they're going to listen to you for 4 hours at a consulting training session, it's a long time to hear this.
That is.
So I guess yeah, that would be.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for
Well,
guiding us through your professional journey. It was very interesting and
I'm
it
glad
was a
you.
lot of fun.
Well, good. Hopefully it wasn't too fishmeck all over the place, but hopefully you have enough. It
I think
will.
it was great. Well, like I was saying, thank you so much. I think there are so many professionals of all ages that will take a lot of what you said to heart and apply it to their work. And it's great advice. I hope that they do. One last thing, where can our audience find you if they're looking for some expertise consulting?
Site is wodarskiconsulting.com. Email is my first name, Cathy, Cathy, last name, Wodarski, Wodarski, @gmail.com.
Beautiful. Thank you. And that
Welcome.
concludes our series. Thank you so much for your sage
Very glad.
advice.
Very good. Good luck to you, dear.